Hello all, it's been a while. Welcome to another route showcase. I've recently finished the agonizing process of the Godred Branchline, and I've decided to show it off to you. This was by far the biggest single route I've ever undertaken. However, I am very proud with how it turned out. Now this video is kind of both the route showcase and really a tour of how the route looks like in the lore. I'll be explaining a lot of little lore parts about the route and about the area of the island as we go. Also, in the previous route videos, if it didn't have to do with the subject line, like the Scarlowy Railway, I wouldn't have talked about it. Not this case today. If it's on the route, we will be talking about it. This route takes place in 1955, shortly after my electric engines sub-series. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Now this route starts in Kildane, so let's take a look around before heading up the Branchline. Kildane is an old textile town, very much inspired by the Rust Belt in the USA. Abandoned industrial complexes dot the town, which was built up in a swampy valley. It's kind of a depressing place to live in. To the south, a large ridge line dominates the view, with the main line's tunnel bored through it. However, the biggest feature of Kildane is the huge ironworks. Iron and scrap metal from all over is brought here to be melted down. While being equipped for all sorts of scrappage, the Kildane Ironworks has a specific fondness for railway scrapping. The Kildane railway station is the junction between the main line and the electrified branch line. The main line does pass a small ridge on its way to Kronk, which is not covered by this route. The station includes a bunch of sidings, a turntable, and a shed for the electric engines. At the time of its development, in the midst of the Great Depression, it was seen as too costly to electrify every single siding. This is why the Fat Director insisted on a specialized fleet of locomotives with batteries to handle small yard maneuvers and operations. Leaving Kildane up the branch line, you first cross over a small dirt road. Past this beautiful shot of the fence in the foreground, and then the climb begins. There's a straightaway with scattered houses and a telephone wire straddling the railway's embankments. Beyond this, we curl around Abbey Hill, a giant mound that you can see right down to the Kon Abbey river far below. The tracks slope down and then back up to the town of Abbey. The village is nothing special, with only about 300 residents. But there is a small school which boys from all over the valley come to learn. Sometimes they watch trains go past. A viaduct on the edge of town crosses the Kon Abbey. It was this bridge that was blown up during the construction of the line. Beyond the viaduct, we begin an insufferable trudge up the ragged foothills. The line does briefly pass through a narrow canyon. 2 miles beyond Abbey, we arrive at Kon Abbey. A collection of landowners live just below the station and raise funds to build the halt when the branch line was being constructed. It proved invaluable as at the highest point on the whole branch line, it is a required stop to pin down brakes. The line crosses over the road before making its way downhill. Only about a mile from Kon Abbey do we arrive at Shen Valley Lumber. Located on the south bank of the Shen Creek, the lumber company built a small bridge to cross the waterway. The yard is used to halt trains to allow others to pass. It is one of only 2 times between Kirk Machan and Kildane that the railway is double-tracked, the other time being at Abbey. The line does climb after this as we enter Shen Valley. A gorgeous viaduct crosses a small gorge with a stream running far below. This is the only thing for miles, as Shen Valley is a vast stretch of wilderness with very few houses or other dwellings. The only other road parallels the railway in a neighboring valley. Almost 4 miles above the lumberyard, do we arrive on the outskirts of Kirk Machan. Kirk Machan is the name for the suburb sprawling south of Godred's walls. It's mostly houses, but a number of big businesses do call Kirk Machan home, including the Kildane Railway. Let's talk about them for a moment. The CFR meets the NWR at Kirk Machan. It crawls around this lovely castle before crossing the NWR. It cuts through a narrow pass before starting the trudge up the mountain range. It passes over the road via an impressive viaduct, another one. It then arrives at the small farming halt of Shiloh. Shiloh was petitioned into existence by disgruntled farmers who wanted a way to bring sheep and goat down to market. It is hardly used now. The line then continues its climb up the mountainside, off the route. Back on the standard gauge line, we pass back underneath the CFR, and then into the Godred tunnel. The tunnel was carefully bored in 1934 as to not disturb the pre-existing structures standing on top of the hill above it. Finally, we arrive at Godred, the walled city. The part of the city that the railway occupies is actually quite young. Before 1923 or so, it used to be a swamp and a lake. However, the small waterfall from the Kildane stream was cut off so the land could be used. The town above the railway is very dense, all located in just over a square mile of land. Before we look at the industries the Godred branch was built to serve, we need to first look at the line it replaced, the Mid-Sodor. Still in 1955, the remains of the MSR's terminus of King Orty's Ridge are still present in the town. The old parking lot was turned into new houses in 1952. Leaving the built-up part of the town, the line sticks along a ridge overlooking the aluminum works. It then passes through the wall and out into the rugged country. Cliff Halt is located here. It used to be the old terminus before the railway got permission to bore through the town's symbolic wall. A small junction is present that goes down to the aluminum works. I'll talk about this later. Trees occupy the line side as we approach yet another impressive viaduct. The line continues off the route shortly after. Okay, let's look at the aluminum works. The aluminum works is almost immediately beyond the end of the branch line, located on the shrunken lake. Now the narrow gauge tracks leave the workings and connect up to the old MSR line. Why does it need to do this if the aluminum works' line was built in 1947, after the MSR had already closed down? Well, it's simple. They wanted access to the MSR section between here and Balamodi Mine. The mine still had ores usable for aluminum when the MSR closed down in 1947. The aluminum works built this line to access the old mines. For a few years, 3 engines ran this short line: Stuart, Falcon, and Jim. However, in 1952, Stuart and Falcon were sold to the SKR, leaving Jim to run solo. In 1954, the line was shut down, finally exhausting the remains of the Balamodi mine. Most ores now arrive at the workings via the Godred branch line. The other industry the Godred branch line was built to serve was the big power plant hidden away in the hills. A small industrial line was built curling around the northern edge of the shrunken lake and then through a small tunnel. A small bridge crosses the southern end of the lake, and then you're finally at the hydroelectrical dams. 3 dams exist on the site. Once upon a time, this was all one lake, but the connecting bit was revealed when the dams were built. This was disastrous for the river connected to the lake, as it now was severed from its source. It only receives water that seeps through the soil or that pours across the land during rainstorms. Downstream, part of the river dried up near settlements just outside of Godred. And that's it, folks. This route took me so long to build. I started building it in mid-August and only finished in late November. I had a blast making it though. Please let me know if you had any questions. and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.